A lot of car advice sounds smart, not because it's correct, but because it used to be. Many of these myths come from old rules and surface-level logic that no longer match how modern cars actually work. Some of them just make driving worse. Others quietly shorten the life of your engine, battery, or transmission. And one of them is so badly misunderstood, it puts lives at risk every year. Before outdated thinking causes real problems, let's break down the car myths that exist simply because modern systems are still being treated like old machines. Myth 1. Using thicker oil for high-mileage engines. Many drivers believe that once an engine passes 100,000 or 130,000 miles, it automatically needs thicker oil. The logic sounds reasonable. As engines age, parts wear, tolerances widen, and oil leaks become more common. Thicker oil feels like a way to compensate for that wear, and years ago, that belief wasn't completely wrong. Older engines were built with simpler designs, looser tolerances, and larger oil passages. In those engines, switching to a heavier oil could sometimes reduce leaks and slow oil consumption as mileage climbed. Modern engines are built very differently. Today's engines rely on precise oil flow to operate systems like variable valve timing, hydraulic lifters, and tight internal clearances. Oil viscosity is no longer just about lubrication. It's part of how the engine controls itself. When oil is too thick, it struggles to move through small passages, especially during cold starts, when most engine wear occurs. That's why jumping from a light oil to a much thicker one can create new problems instead of fixing old ones. Thicker oil increases resistance, raises operating temperatures, and puts extra load on the oil pump. Over time, that added strain can lead to poor performance, increased fuel consumption, and accelerated wear of critical components like the valve train. As engines age, some adjustment can be reasonable. Moving from something like 5W20 to 5W30 is often within design tolerance. But jumping to extreme viscosities ignores how modern engines are engineered to function. When oil consumption becomes an issue, the solution isn't outdated viscosity rules, but oils designed specifically for high-mileage engines that maintain proper flow while addressing age-related wear. Myth 2. Changing oil every 3,000 miles. The 3,000-mile oil change rule is one of the most persistent car myths still around. For decades, drivers were told that changing oil at this interval was essential to protect the engine, and at the time that advice made sense. Older engines ran on basic petroleum oils with fewer additives, looser tolerances, and less effective filtration. Contaminants built up quickly, oil broke down faster, and frequent changes were necessary to prevent sludge and excessive wear. Under those conditions, waiting longer really could shorten engine life. Modern engines and oils operate in a completely different environment. Today's synthetic oils are engineered to resist heat, moisture, and contamination far better than older formulations. Engines are built with tighter tolerances, improved sealing, and more efficient oil filtration systems, allowing oil to stay effective for much longer periods. Because of this, changing synthetic oil every 3,000 miles isn't harmful, but it no longer serves the purpose it once did. In many cases, it simply discards oil that still has useful life left. Most modern vehicles are designed for oil change intervals between 5,000 and 7,500 miles, with some capable of going even longer under the right conditions. That said, oil change intervals aren't universal. Driving patterns still matter. Short trips, heavy city traffic, high heat, or performance driving can shorten oil life, especially as an engine ages. This is why modern maintenance isn't based on old mileage rules, but on how the engine is actually used. The correct interval is determined by the vehicle's design, the oil type, and real driving conditions, not advice carried over from another era. Myth 3. Always warming up your car by idling. Modern engines don't work that way. Today's fuel-injected engines are designed to start cleanly and begin warming as soon as they're running. What still matters, however, is oil flow. At startup, oil is thicker and hasn't fully circulated yet. Giving the engine 30 to 60 seconds allows that oil to reach critical components and establish proper lubrication. Where this myth causes problems is at the extremes. Letting a car idle for long periods doesn't warm the engine efficiently. Instead, it wastes fuel and allows carbon deposits to build up, especially in direct injection engines. On the other end, driving aggressively immediately after startup puts stress on parts that haven't reached operating temperature yet. Cold oil doesn't protect turbochargers, bearings, and valve train components the way it does once warmed. Modern engines are built to warm up under light load, not while sitting still. A brief pause after startup, followed by gentle driving, aligns with how these systems are engineered to work. This approach reduces unnecessary wear, avoids fuel waste, and helps the engine reach operating temperature the way it was designed to, through controlled use, not prolonged idling. Myth 4. Inflating tires to the pressure molded on the sidewall. Many drivers believe the correct tire pressure is the number molded into the tire's sidewall. It feels logical. If the number is printed on the tire itself, it must be the right setting, or at least the safest one. But that number was never meant to be used as a daily target. The pressure molded on the sidewall is simply the maximum the tire can safely handle, not the pressure your car was designed to run. It tells you the limit of the tire, not the operating requirement of the vehicle. Modern cars are engineered as complete systems. Suspension geometry, weight distribution, braking performance, and ride comfort are all calibrated around a specific tire pressure chosen by the manufacturer. When tires are inflated to their maximum rating instead of that engineered value, traction drops, tread wears unevenly, and ride quality suffers. Underinflation causes its own problems: reduced fuel efficiency, poor handling, and a higher risk of failure. The correct pressure isn't guessed or generalized. It's set for the vehicle, not the tire, and can be found in the owner's manual or on the sticker inside the driver's door. There are temporary exceptions, such as lowering pressure briefly, for traction in mud or sand, but those are situational adjustments, not everyday settings. For normal driving, proper tire inflation isn't about pushing limits. It's about matching the pressure to how the vehicle was engineered to work as a whole. Myth 5. Running the AC uses more gas. The belief that using your car's air conditioning always wastes fuel comes from a simple assumption. If the AC is running, the engine must be working harder. And at low speeds, that assumption can be partly true. In slow city driving, rolling the windows down may use slightly less fuel than running the AC. But modern vehicles aren't operating under the same conditions all the time. And this is where surface-level logic breaks down. At higher speeds, the biggest fuel penalty isn't the air conditioner, it's aerodynamic drag. Open windows disrupt airflow around the car, forcing the engine to work harder just to maintain speed. Modern air conditioning systems are designed to be efficient and consistent, especially once the cabin is cooled. At highway speeds, the extra drag from open windows can outweigh the fuel used by the AC system. In those conditions, keeping the windows up and using the AC can actually be the more efficient setup. This myth persists because it treats fuel use as a single factor problem, when it's really a balance between engine load, airflow, and system efficiency. How the car moves through air matters just as much as what accessories are running. Understanding that difference is what separates old assumptions from how modern cars are engineered to operate. If some of these myths sound familiar, it's not because you're careless. It's because a lot of car advice never evolved as the engineering did. We're breaking these down one by one so you can understand why modern cars behave differently, not just what to stop doing. If you want to avoid repeating outdated habits that quietly shorten your car's lifespan, take a second to subscribe. That way, the next time a myth sounds logical, you'll know how to sanity check it before it costs you. Myth 6. Bigger tires mean more grip and safety. Many drivers assume that wider or larger tires automatically make a car safer. The logic feels straightforward. More rubber on the road should mean more grip, better control, and improved stability. That assumption leads people to upgrade tire size without considering how the rest of the vehicle was designed to work. But modern cars are engineered as balanced systems. Tire width, sidewall height, suspension geometry, braking, calibration, steering response, and electronic safety systems are all tuned together. When tire size is increased beyond what the vehicle was designed for, that balance is disrupted. More width also means more rotating mass, which places additional strain on steering components and suspension, especially during cornering and emergency maneuvers. Wider tires don't automatically increase traction in real-world conditions. In wet weather, excessive width can actually raise the risk of hydroplaning by spreading water under the tire instead of cutting through it. Larger tires can also alter braking distances, confuse ABS and stability control systems, and throw off speedometer readings if the overall diameter changes. This myth persists because it treats grip as a single variable upgrade, when in reality grip depends on compound, tread design, and proper sizing, not just width. Modern vehicles achieve safety through system balance, not extremes. When tire changes respect that balance, performance improves. When they don't, the result is often reduced control, accelerated wear, and unintended handling issues. Myth 7. Shutting off your engine at red lights saves gas. The idea that shutting off your engine at red lights saves fuel comes from older vehicles that burned significantly more gas during idling. In those cars, long idle times could waste fuel, so turning the engine off felt like a smart workaround. Modern engines don't operate under the same conditions. Fuel-injected systems use very small amounts of fuel at idle, and they are designed to maintain oil pressure and stable operation while the engine is running. Manually shutting the engine off interrupts that flow, cutting lubrication and forcing components to restart repeatedly. This is where surface-level logic causes problems. Each restart puts wear on the starter, draws heavily from the battery, and briefly reduces oil circulation. Conditions modern engines aren't designed to experience constantly through the ignition key. Factory start-stop systems are built with reinforced starters, batteries, and control logic to manage this safely. Manual shutoffs are not. The risk becomes even greater in turbocharged engines. Turbos rely on continuous oil flow to manage heat after driving. Cutting the engine off too soon stops that cooling process, allowing heat to build where oil should still be circulating. What looks like a fuel-saving habit ignores how modern engines manage heat, lubrication, and component lifespan as a system. Myth 8. Disconnecting the battery cable to test the alternator. The idea that you can test an alternator by disconnecting the battery cable comes from a much older generation of cars. Decades ago, vehicles had simple electrical systems with no computers. If the engine kept running after the battery was disconnected, it usually meant the alternator was supplying power. In that context, the test made sense. Modern cars are built around complex electrical networks. The battery, alternator, engine control unit, sensors, and infotainment systems all work together to regulate voltage and protect sensitive electronics. Disconnecting the battery while the engine is running breaks that balance instantly. When the battery is removed from the circuit, the alternator can produce a sudden voltage spike with nowhere for excess energy to go. In older cars, this wasn't a concern. In modern vehicles, that surge can overwhelm computers and electronic modules in milliseconds. What feels like a quick diagnostic shortcut ignores how modern charging systems are engineered to operate as a closed, stabilized loop. This myth persists because it treats today's vehicles like mechanical machines with simple wiring, instead of software-controlled systems designed to protect themselves through constant electrical regulation. Testing an alternator now requires measuring voltage under normal operating conditions, not removing the component that stabilizes the entire system. Understanding that difference is the key to avoiding unnecessary damage in modern cars. Myth 9. Disconnecting the battery fixes everything. Modern cars are no longer built around simple circuits. Today's vehicles rely on multiple computers that constantly store data, adapt to driving conditions, and communicate with each other. Disconnecting the battery doesn't diagnose or repair anything, it simply removes power from systems that are designed to stay stable and synchronized. When power is abruptly cut, those systems can lose critical memory. Anti-theft modules may lock the vehicle, radios can require reprogramming, and adaptive systems like transmission or engine control may lose learned data. In some cases, sudden power loss can even disrupt sensitive electronics in ways the system wasn't designed to handle. What looks like a quick reset ignores how modern vehicles manage information and protect themselves. This myth survives because it treats today's cars like mechanical machines that can be rebooted by cutting power. In reality, modern vehicles are computer-managed systems that require controlled diagnostics, not electrical guesswork. Fixing problems now means identifying causes, not wiping memory and hoping the issue disappears. Myth 10. Adding refrigerant first if AC is not cold. When a car's air conditioning stops blowing cold, many drivers assume the system is simply low on refrigerant. The logic feels straightforward. Less refrigerant must mean less cooling, so adding more should fix the problem. That belief stuck around from earlier systems that were simpler and less tightly controlled. Modern automotive AC systems don't work on guesswork. They are sealed systems designed to operate with a very precise amount of refrigerant, measured by weight. Too little refrigerant reduces cooling efficiency, but too much can be just as harmful, raising system pressures and putting extra strain on the compressor. In either case, performance drops instead of improving. This is where surface-level logic causes damage. Refrigerant doesn't create cold air, it moves heat. If another component in the system isn't working correctly, such as the compressor, expansion valve, or condenser, adding refrigerant won't fix anything. And if the system is completely empty, that doesn't mean it needs a refill. It means there's a leak that must be addressed first. The correct approach isn't topping off blindly, but restoring the system to its engineered condition. That means removing old refrigerant, evacuating moisture, and recharging the system with the exact amount specified for the vehicle. This myth persists because it treats modern climate systems like simple containers, instead of precision-balanced systems where accuracy matters more than quantity. Myth 11. Overdrive makes your car faster. Many drivers treat overdrive like a performance switch. The name alone makes it sound like something that should add speed or power, so it's easy to assume engaging overdrive will make the car accelerate harder. That assumption comes from focusing on the label instead of the function. Overdrive was never designed for acceleration. Its purpose is efficiency. When overdrive is engaged, the transmission lowers engine RPM, reduces load, and allows the car to cruise using less fuel. That works well on flat roads at steady speeds, where the engine doesn't need to produce much torque. Problems start when overdrive is used in situations it wasn't engineered for. Expecting strong acceleration, especially uphill, forces the engine to work harder at low RPM. Instead of gaining power, the engine strains, fuel consumption increases, and internal transmission components take on unnecessary stress. Turning overdrive off in traffic for better control often creates the same issue by keeping the engine working harder than needed. This myth exists because it treats transmission modes as performance boosts rather than efficiency tools. Modern transmissions manage power best when the correct gear matches the driving condition. Overdrive isn't about speed, it's about reducing effort once speed is already maintained. Most car myths don't come from bad intentions. They come from old rules being applied to systems that no longer work the same way. Modern cars are tighter, more precise, and far more interconnected than the machines those rules were built for. When advice doesn't account for that, it stops being helpful and starts creating problems. The goal isn't to memorize tips, it's to understand how the systems actually work, so you don't have to rely on guesswork or outdated logic. If this helped you see your car a little differently, you'll want to watch the next video, where we break down even more myths that sound right, but quietly work against modern engines. Your car and your wallet will thank you.